So TNA Impact took place once again in Orlando, Florida. It was a special themed episode. Final resolution. The show starts with Magnus coming to the ring. Magnus says that he loves wrestling and that he and the talent in the back traveled the long miles and punished their bodies because of that. He says that by living in this country for the past 5 years, he has learned that money gets you what you want, but he says that he has never been about what one has to have in order to be somebody. Magnus says that positive character traits are what he is about, but he wonders if Jeff Hardy has those same traits. He says that Hardy has put his past problems behind him, but being greedy now has a hold on him. Magnus says that Hardy needs to address his meeting with Dixie Carter last week because he is not going to be deceived. Then Hardy comes to the ring. Hardy says that Magnus shouldn't judge him based on his meeting with Dixie. However, Magnus says that he should because of what happened on October the 10th, 2010, the date that Hardy turned heel. Hardy says that he's not that guy anymore, but Magnus rejects that thought, saying that date was the day Hardy turned his soul into dollars. Magnus wants Hardy to think of what all the kids that worship him would think if he chose to serve Dixie. Hardy says that Magnus should focus on himself and leaves. Decent opening segment. The purpose being TNA trying to create doubt about whether Hardy will turn heel. Keyword trying. So then we see Christy Hemme backstage with Kurt Angle. Angle acknowledges that since Bound for Glory, Robert Roode has owned him, which includes his failure to win the world title. He says that things will be different because he will prove that he never lost what made him what he is. And he will do that by defeating Roode twice in one match. And this was followed by a short video segment highlighting some of the recent history between Angle and Roode. So then we had the 2 out of 3 falls match. Kurt Angle versus Robert Roode. Solid match. Now before the match, TNA once again shows their lack of thought for the small details. After Kurt Angle made his ring entrance, Impact went to a commercial break. After the break, we see Jeremy Borash interviewing Chavo Guerrero and Zema Ion about the Feast or Fire briefcases reveal later in the show. After that ends, we see Robert Roode already in the ring, removing his robe. So, we don't see Roode's ring entrance for this highly anticipated match because TNA choosing to show Chavo and Zema Ion making insignificant noise was more important. The first fall ends with Angle delivering an overhead belly-to-belly suplex to Roode. Roode rolls out of the ring and Angle pursues him. Angle throws a couple of forearms at Roode and kicks him. Roode tries to counter by ramming Angle's head into the guardrail, but Angle reverses it and sends Roode's head down instead. The action moves back into the ring and Angle charges Roode in the corner. However, Roode puts his foot up and knocks Angle back. Roode goes for a clothesline, but Angle ducks and triple Germans Roode. He picks Roode up for the Angle slam, but Roode counters with a reverse arm drag. Angle charges Roode, but Roode pulls the referee in front of him. Angle moves the ref out of the way, but Roode kicks him in the midsection. He picks Angle up and delivers a fireman's carry cutter to get the 3. The winner of the first fall, Robert Roode. The second fall ends with Roode delivering a vertical suplex to Angle. Roode attempts a running knee drop, but Angle moves out of the way. Angle nails Roode with a couple of blows and whips him off the ropes. Roode reverses the whip, but Angle comes off the ropes with a forearm followed by a couple of clotheslines. Angle tosses Roode with another overhead belly-to-belly suplex and waits for him to get up. Angle charges Roode in the corner, but Roode sidesteps him, causing Angle to hit the ring post shoulder first. Roode tries to take Angle down for an attempted crossface, but Angle does a quick roll, picks Roode up for the Angle slam, delivers it, and pins him. The winner of the second fall, Kurt Angle. The third fall ends with Angle applying the ankle lock on Roode. Roode reaches for the ropes, but Angle drags him back to the middle of the ring. He breaks the hold and applies the crossface. Roode gradually makes it to his feet and picks Angle up, but Angle slips out and delivers the Angle slam. Angle goes for the pin, but Roode kicks out. Rude slowly rolls out of the ring, but Angle follows him and hits him in the back before throwing him back in the ring. Rude tries to crawl out of the ring, but Angle puts the ankle lock on again. However, Rude catches Angle with a roll through and grabs the middle rope to get the 3. The winner of the third fall and the match, Robert Roode. My reaction is mixed with the booking of this match. On the plus side, Rude winning the match continues his physical and psychological advantage over Angle, thus advancing the storyline as far as how Angle reacts to another loss and whether he will ever beat Rude. The negative here was the length of the match. With only 3 matches on the show, this match should have gone 30 minutes, and it didn't even time out at half of that. With the great build of the Rude Angle program creating high anticipation for a stellar match, this match should have met that anticipation level, and it didn't. It was still a solid match, but it felt like TNA just wanted to get it over with. This Rude Angle program isn't over, of course, but this match was disappointing because it should have been better than it was. So then we see Jeremy Borash backstage with James Storm and Gunner. Borash wants to find out from Gunner the reasoning as to why he buried Storm in order to retrieve his briefcase. Gunner says that the rules dictated what he did, and that Storm would have done what he did as well. Borash asks Storm if that's the case. Storm tells Gunner that the future will see if it was worth it, noting that he could be fired. Gunner says that's a possibility and goes into the conference room, followed by Storm. So then we see Kurt Angle backstage. Angle is asked why he didn't win the match. He says that Rude is getting over on him with his brain instead of his talent. Angle is asked if Rude has put the psych job in his head, and he responds by saying that that's a thought which he will never acknowledge. Angle says that he will spend his Christmas break wondering what his next decision will be. So as I said earlier, now it's about Angle trying to figure out what he needs to do to beat Robert Roode. And this is good progression as the storyline moves to the next stage. And Angle sold his depression very well. So then we see a video segment featuring the history between Gail Kim and Madison Rayne, as well as the return of Madison Rayne. Outside of the Madison Rayne flock, no one is looking forward to Gail versus Madison. So then we see Jeremy Borash with Ethan Carter III. Ethan is asked about his odds with his Feast or Fired briefcase, and he says that even if things don't work out the way he wants, Dixie will make sure that they do. He gets a phone call from Dixie, and she tells him that the law firm that she employed to oversee the briefcases won't let her get access to them. She tells him that she will be unable to help him if he gets fired. Why didn't Dixie hire a firm that would allow her to access the briefcases? Why hire anyone at all? TNA logic. Oh, by the way, how was someone able to tap into their phone call so that we could hear Dixie's voice? So then we see Eric Young come to the ring. Skip! So then we see Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe backstage. Joe tells Hardy that he shouldn't be feeling the way he is unless Magnus is hitting him with facts. He goes on to say that having to work in such a stressful business such as professional wrestling can cause one to take the easy route in order to accomplish his goals, and that he didn't think that Hardy would be that guy. Hardy says that he doesn't have to say anything and leaves. TNA still trying. So then we see Jeremy Borash in the Feast or Fired conference room with Ethan Carter III, Chavo Guerrero, Gunner with James Storm, ? And Zima Ion for the briefcases reveal. Dixie Carter comes into the room to supervise the reveal and gladly expresses her coming up with the idea for this concept. There's a joke in there somewhere. Zima Ion gets the X Division title shot. Gunner gets the world title shot and gets into a dirty look exchange with James Storm. Before Chavo and Ethan show their briefcases, Sting comes into the room and says that he is sickened by the affiliation of the word legacy and Ethan Carter III. He makes an offer to Ethan. he will eat the result of Ethan's briefcase if they have a match. Ethan refuses and he ends up with the World Tag Team title shot. Therefore, Chavo is fired. Let's subtract the ridiculousness of this segment. Dixie taking credit for a bad idea that wasn't hers, therefore why admit to it? James Storm being in the room having to hold Gunner's hand. That background music. And Sting willing to take Ethan's briefcase in order to have a match and risk being fired himself, thus not having the match take place anyway. Ethan should have gotten the fired briefcase, and this is why. Ethan receiving that briefcase would have further defined his character, and it would have advanced the storyline with Sting. It's about Ethan's entitlement. He receives the fired briefcase, he goes to Dixie for help, and she, quote-unquote, fixes things so that Ethan remains employed, which reinforces what he's about. That leads into what Sting has been saying about Ethan getting favors that he doesn't deserve because of his last name. Ethan getting the fired briefcase would have served a purpose. Chavo receiving the fired briefcase doesn't mean a damn thing. TNA could have dismissed Chavo whenever they wanted. He could have gotten a tag team title shot, and that match could have been burned off in 3 minutes or less. The tag team division is dead anyway, so the situation can't get worse. Chavo and Hernandez versus the Glorified Jobbers. The match gets burned off. Done. Who cares? Then TNA can fire Chavo on their own. Who is Ethan supposed to get as a partner for the tag team title match? No, I mean besides Rockstar Dud. Here's a name. Jay Bradley. If TNA gets anyone else, which they won't, but if they do, he's the guy that they get. His appearance is the total opposite of Ethan's polished look, and that would provide an intriguing visual. Also, their styles appear that they would mesh well for tag team wrestling. Jay Bradley, not Rockstar Dud. So then we had the women's tag team match. Gail Kim and Lady Tapa versus ODB and Madison Rayne. TNA, it would have been okay to play Tapa's music and graphics. Not before Gail's, but you still could have played them. She is in the match. So match. The match ends with Gail whipping ODB into the corner. Gail comes toward ODB with a splash, but ODB moves out of the way. ODB propels Gail in the air, and she lands face first on the mat. ODB makes the tag to Madison, who comes at Gail with a push, a clothesline, a toss by the hair, and another clothesline. Madison whips Gail, but Gail reverses it. Madison comes off the ropes and spears Gail. She follows that with the thrashing of Gail's head on the mat. Tapa comes into the ring, pulls Madison off Gail, and sets her up for a move. ODB leaps on Tapa's back, but Tapa walks to the ropes and dumps ODB over the top rope onto the floor. As Tapa leaves the ring to follow up on ODB, Gail hits Madison from behind. Gail delivers a short arm clothesline and sets Madison up for the eat defeat. But Madison escapes and catches Gail with a backslide pin for the 3. The winners of the match, ODB and Madison Rayne. So Madison still comes out to Killer Queen, and she still does the beauty pageant wave, yet she's a face. Okay. Don't see it, but okay. We can see the inevitable coming from 3 miles away, so Gail will do her job by putting over the face and making her look as good as possible. That's what she does best. That's why she's the nucleus. Madison may carry the belt soon, but Gail will carry the division always. So then we see Sting and Jeff Hardy backstage. Hardy tells Sting that he doesn't want another speech, but Sting says that he's not there for that. He says that he has experienced people questioning his decision making in the past. and that Hardy doesn't need to say anything to anyone other than his fans. More trying by TNA. So then we see an Impact 365 video with Dixie Carter and Rockstar Dud. Dixie chews out Dud for failing to get the TNA World title belt from AJ Styles. She says that she doesn't want to look bad by not having a belt to present to the new champion, so she orders Dud to have a new belt made. So then we see Jeff Hardy come to the ring. Hardy says that he has done things in the past that he can't take back. He recalls Magnus bringing up what happened at Bound for Glory 2010 and says that the power that he had back then resulted in embarrassment for him at Victory Road 2011. Hardy says that these types of setbacks will not repeat themselves. He says that meeting with Dixie wasn't a big deal, but his dedication to his family and his fans means more to him than selling out again. Hardy says that Dixie offered him a lot of money, but he knew that accepting would make him her bitch, so he rejected her. Then Dixie Carter comes to the ring. Dixie says that the only thing that Hardy has in common with AJ Styles is that they owe their success to her. She says that she supported him when his fans didn't, and that he remained an employed wrestler because of her. Dixie says that Hardy should join her team or suffer the same deal as Styles, adding that he needs her and that he should think about how he would support his family without a job. And Dixie says that she's going to stay and watch the match. So then we have the tournament final match. Dixieland match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Magnus versus Jeff Hardy. Solid match. Dixie and Ethan are watching the match from the stage. And during the match, Hardy does a whisper in the wind off the top of the cage, and Magnus oversells it, which he didn't need to. Great spot. Unnecessary, since Hardy could have just climbed out of the cage, but great. The match ends with both Jeff Hardy and Magnus climbing over the top of the cage on opposite sides of the ring. Ethan Carter III runs down the ringside and climbs up the cage to engage with Magnus, but Magnus kicks him, causing Ethan to fall to the floor. As Hardy hobbles around the ring and heads to the ramp, he sees Ethan setting Magnus up for the headlock driver, hits Ethan, and nails him with the twist of fate. Hardy turns his attention back to Magnus and the two exchange blows. Magnus gains the advantage and knocks Hardy down before heading up the ramp. Hardy stops him and delivers the twist of fate. As Hardy approaches the ladder, Dixie confronts him, and he responds by wiping his face and throwing his sweat at her. Hardy climbs the ladder and is about to grab the belt when Rockstar Dud comes out and pushes the ladder over, sending Hardy crashing to the floor head first. Dud sets the ladder back upright as Magnus looks at the stage, then back at Hardy. Magnus walks to the ladder, climbs the ladder, and grabs the new belt, which looks exactly the same as the one in AJ's possession. The winner of the match, Magnus, he is the new World Heavyweight Champion. Magnus celebrates his victory with Dixie, Dud, and Ethan, who applauds reluctantly with an interesting look on his face. Show ends. Magnus is TNA's new leader, for now. We now wait until the man from Gainesville returns so that the true champion of the company can be determined. Magnus' inevitable confrontation with AJ Styles will be the testing phase as to how well he initially gets over as a heel. Even though the move is not a good one as far as building a current young face for the future is concerned, TNA feels that heel Magnus is the gun that will be fired successfully. Will the bullet hit the mark and give TNA its rewards? Or will they wish they could have pulled the bullet back into a gun that shouldn't have been fired? I'm Taskmark 2002, and that was my TNA Impact analysis for December 19th, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button. And if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments for me about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter, Tazmark2002, that's TAZMARK 2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email, Tazmark2002 at gmail.com. And be sure to listen to the TNA Impact review that I do with Chuck P. live every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Chuck P's YouTube channel. Also, check out Chuck P's channel as well as our brother Carl Cleveland. Check out his channel as well. Decent show. Decent show. The definition of oxymoron is a combination of words that have opposite meanings. For example, dark light, silent thunder, cruel kindness. The term free pay-per-view is an oxymoron. Final Resolution was the latest of a series of events that many fans have referred to as free pay-per-views, and because of that, they expected to see these events parallel the presentation of actual pay-per-views. They don't. Why? Because free pay-per-views are not pay-per-views. They're special themed episodes of Impact. Did Final Resolution look more like Impact or a real pay-per-view? What about Destination X, Hardcore Justice, No Surrender, and Turning Point? Ask the same question for those. When you watch a so-called free pay-per-view, don't be concerned with pay-per-view quality, whether it was good or not. When you see something that looks like Impact during an actual pay-per-view, be concerned then. I'm Tazmark2002. Gone.